Okay, that's fine. Hey, everybody, this is Brian Bailey here with Between the Ears. We have Dr. Mike with us again. Doc, how you doing today?
Doing great. Yeah,
How's
thank you for
everything
speaking.
in beautiful southern South Dakota?
Well, it's actually pretty nice. It's been really cool. We're gonna have to get a hot streak come back in the weather, but yeah, I'm back to teaching. It's the academic semester. The fall semester started, so I've had a couple days, so right back into the swing of things after
Nice.
about 3.5 months of not doing that. So
You gotta meet that
it's a
teaching
good
is a
start.
pretty good gig.
It is a good gig. I mean, I don't want to say too much about it, but there's a few months I don't have to be working.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
say
right.
that,
And they're like the
which
best
is
months of the
nice.
year. It's like,
And
oh,
I have to admit that was a part of my process and plan right early on in my life.
so
And
that
I
was
love
part of
those
your
summers so
motivation.
much.
Very
So
good. Chris,
yeah,
how you doing today, buddy?
Very well.
How's everything in Williamsburg?
It's good. It's
Good?
it's fall and kids are back in school and it's good.
Yeah, I'm loving in the Mid Atlantic right now. It is perfect weather-wise. So, all right. So we're going to kick today's show off. We're going to do two main themes. We're going to circle back and talk Tommy Fleetwood because why not? He actually came through, and then we're going to jump into a couple scenarios and look at these are scenarios given by GolfCast members, kind of things that they might be fighting or whatever, and then we'll look at it from a prism of maybe a couple different way that different athletes mindsets might look at the situation and why some athletes just react different. It's why is Michael Jordan Michael Jordan? Why is Tom Brady? Well, they sometimes people see the world a little bit different, and we'll kind of hit on that. But we'll start with Tommy, Mr. Resilient Fleetwood. Actually comes back and wins the Players, which is awesome. Uh, Mike, Chris, anyone want to jump in and talk about Tommy's match or rounds and kind of what you saw different maybe in this tournament opposed to past tournaments? Floor is
Chris,
open.
that's something. Want to go with it?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I only watched a couple shots, so my observations were very limited. So I can't really speak to his nonverbals or anything like that. I can only speak to what he talked about,
Yeah.
and so basically, I think I've seen it across social media as well. It's pretty obvious his attitude related to his failures to win was pretty incredible. He kept a very positive, approach oriented mentality toward winning. He embraced the learning process. He embraced the reflection that he needed to do to keep figuring out what it was that he was missing, so he could put that into play. And again, I only watched a couple shots, but it was toward the end, and he definitely looked like he had a more like that Scotty Scheffler look, where he's looking straight on down the fairway, and he seemed to be more locked into what he was doing. And when you get down to the bottom, it's like, where else do you go from there? Sometimes that can really be helpful, especially that it happened just in the last couple of weeks, where it's like, hey, I've got nothing to lose by just going after this and making sure I do what
Yeah.
I know is the best. And then his nervous system follows along and he goes about and succeeds. I think it also is helpful that he's liked and loved by so many people that, even if he doesn't win again, he doesn't get that same backlash as much as other
Yeah.
players would for losing and being looked at as a choker. Instead, people just root for him even more, it seems like.
I agree. I think there's a lot to that. How about yourself, Chris? What were some pull ways you took away?
Yeah, I would go kind of a different perspective than what Mike has, just because I got to see a lot more of his golf pre BMW as well. So I'll kind of compare pre BMW to BMW to FedEx. And what was really unique to me to watch him go through his process, his warm up, his mannerisms, conversations with the caddy, walking down the fairway, were very consistent. I think that from pre BMW to the Tour Championship, The interesting part was not knowing what he's thinking and what he's working on or what he is, cued into, but just kind of when he did what he did, his awareness from my perspective, and again, I'm watching it quite different than most people watching golf on television, but his awareness of moments that he didn't let that moment get bigger than it was. He was very diligent in intent, had a ton of intention on the process itself as a piece and letting the shot making and know all his work that he'd been doing was going to come out. And I think that's what stood out the most for me, knowing that it was going to happen in the end at some point, but he was refining these little pieces from event to event, from week to week, from year to year, month to month. And he's working in the right direction. And it certainly, starts to snowball as confidence builds, his management of the moment and understanding of it completely evolved. And that was the cool thing for me to see.
I thought it was pretty interesting, the fact that on the final day, I watched bits and segments of all 4 days. I think on the final day, I thought it was really, really interesting. He did not interact with the fans very much. Like the day before on, what was it, 15 or 16, the par 3 over the water. He hit it in the water and he's walking to the drop zone and he's like fist bumping fans as he's kind of going that way. But that final day, man, he was kind of, when he walked through, walked the pro alley to the next hole, man, he was dead center, didn't favor either side, so he didn't have to interact with anything. To me, it looked like a completely different. He just looked different. Like he was focused in on what I'm trying to do, and almost kind of like Rory at the last round of the Masters. Like, I just need to get into me and forget Bryson and forget the fans and the noise. To me, that was different than when I think of Fleetwood playing. He's always got a smile and he's always kind of more of a jovial look. Like, he did not have that look on the final day. And I wasn't sure if that was a good thing or was a bad thing as the day was kind of rolling. But as the day wore on, I go, oh, he found something different that allowed him just to kind of keep charging through. And then, of course, I told you guys my conspiracy theory. I can put my tinfoil cap on. Data science-wise, you don't win very often on tour. And you definitely don't win multiple times on tour unless you're kind of the unicorns. That's like the 1%ers win multiple times on tour. So I think Fleetwood is a big data guy. So I think he figured out that if I win at a $2 million tournament, that's no good. If I hold out for the players, I get an annuity. I won't have to work another day in my life. My kids won't have to work. So I think actually Tommy just kind of sandbagged it through the other two events and really set it up for this one.
We'll see.
He planned his win. That's what
he totally played it. He's like, I'm playing really good. I could win this one, but I'm not. I'm going to hit something and have the ball go offline. No. It's all there. It's all there. No. No, I think it's really cool for Tommy to bust through because, and kind of what you said, Doc, like the Ricky Fowlers, the best that have never won, JT before he won, kind of that whole list of these are the guys that have never won the big, the big events or whatever. I do think Tommy kind of did get a little pass, like, and I think a lot of that is because he's a fan favorite, and I think even the guys in the locker room respect him. So I think a lot of that, I think he had a little bit of that going for him, which is not a bad thing. So being a good human being is not a bad place to be.
That's not a bad place to be. That was great. I love that. And I was watching, maybe today I saw a little clip of him talking about it. And he sounded so much like his son at the Masters when they had that really cool, popular clip of his son. I just keep trying, that is just the cutest thing. But gosh, he sounded just like his dad. I mean, they sounded just so much like each other. And you could see that mentality that his child had was just adorable to everybody. And that seems like the same one that Tommy Fleetwood has.
Well, the apple doesn't fall far from the trees. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, for sure. Learning from his dad.
That's right.
Sure.
Awesome. So I thought it was an exciting end to the final year. It was cool to watch. A lot of people took some runs. But again, Tommy just said, not today, boys. Ryder Cup's coming up. Exciting. Any thoughts on captain, no cap? Well, I guess he's decided not to be playing captain, but what are y'all's guesses now that the teams are chosen? Who's going to win, Europe or US?
Okay. I'm going to go.
Oh, Mike's going to play middle field here. All right, never mind.
All right. I won't go through all the reasons. I'm just going to say I'm going to guess Europe.
That's fair.
How about
Yeah.
you?
I'd love to see the U.S. win. There's going to be there's going to be some things that have to fall in place for that to happen, for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's going to have to be some matches that get flipped from past matches. You know, the pairings are going to be pretty similar to where they were in Rome. You know, they're going to try and match that up. At least Europe is.
Bethpage is a different beast, though.
It is, but there's still that golf component of it.
No, there is, but I'm telling you right now that Bethpage is a different monster. I mean, yeah, that's going to test. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see the setup. Can't see, you know, I'm sure the American team's already thought about how we're going to tighten down fairways, widen them. Yeah. What's in our best benefit, or at least they better be. And then moving forward, but so we got one Europe. Who do you think, Chris? You lean Europe?
U.S. I'm going with U.S.
All right,
and I'm very surprised. I was very surprised Keegan did not play.
He's playing so daggone good. I really thought so
too. Ranch he was going to play, and I totally whiffed on that one. But you know,
I was the same way. I was like, forget what Rory says, dude. Play, because you know, in my big as a coach of a Ryder team, like, how much are they really? You know, you've got literally the top 10 players in your entire country rolling up for you. It's kind of like, I don't know how much I have to really do. So, but no, I think it's interesting. And I think after Rome, I think America wants to win more than Europe does. I think, and I don't think the bottom half of Europe's playing great. I think the bottom half of the States is playing better. Okay. So I'm going to lean U.S. I'm going to lean U.S. just because I think the top half is pretty neutral. I think you're pretty neutral right there. I think the JJ Spahns and even Sam Burns, you know, and Sam's got a lot of experience, so we'll see. But it'll be fun. There's going to be a lot of, I can't imagine the outfits and the smack talking going on between the crowd and the players as well. Yeah. And
I have to say, I'm probably looking forward to watching this one more so than about anyone for some reason this year. Just partly because of Keegan Bradley, which is I'm a fan of him. I like the way he goes about doing his thing, and this whole issue of him being captain has been fun. And it'll be a really really fun one to watch. You know, I guess I was 50-50 on him being captain. I really couldn't make my mind up on what would be the best decision in his part, but Jim McLean put something out there that he thought, gosh, if he made himself a playing captain, he could truly make incredible history in this Ryder Cup. And he didn't do it. He was disappointed that he didn't. There's
always going to be somebody, right?
Yeah, somebody. Yeah.
I thought his explanation was good. He goes, "I was hired to coach the team."
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought sense to me too.
He's like, "I was hired to coach the team. I want to play, and this is what I wanted. But you know, my job was to coach the team." But no, it's all good. And how about this? We'll compromise with you, Mike. We'll let like one or two Europeans play really, really well, but then the U.S. win.
I'm just saying who I think. That's all I'm going to say.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't want to get you in any trouble or anything, but I'll just say,
that's the question.
You know, maybe someone might play really, really well, and we'll cheer them. No. So
that's what makes this so fun, right?
That is what makes it so much fun. So Yeah, it's going to be exciting. So we're going to jump into a couple different scenarios, and again, these were kind of some things that were thrown in. I just asked a bunch of people that play golf inside a golf cask, like, give us some thoughts. So again, this is not like, I'm not going to give you scenarios like it's the 18th, the wind is blowing from the east, the sun is none of that. So this is a little more general, a little more vague, a little more user friendly. I guess later on we could come back with some like crazy scenarios, but scenario number one is you just missed a 3-foot putt for birdie. What happens next? So I kind of threw out some mindsets that when I coached collegiately, that I saw a lot. And to define them was the mastery, which we kind of talked about a few episodes ago with Scotty Scheffler. Like process, gets in the process, and that's how they see golf. We talked about the ego, right? They're there to show off. They're there to beat the other player. It's, their method is, I'm going to beat the field or my playing partner. And then you have the kind of the outcome, the extrinsic player that's like, hey, I want to win a trophy. I want to win some money. I want to, so they're chasing something along that lines. And then, yes, there's a lot of different mindsets out there, but the one I see a lot, especially in amateur golf, is the avoidance, right? The fear factor guy. If you're that person, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The person that's driven by fear, that what happens in the round is more about fear and drives them opposed to anything we talked about first. So what we'll do is I'll let any of you jump in on any scenario mindset you want to pick and answer that question. If you miss a 3-foot putt for birdie, what's next? So who wants to jump in first?
I'll go.
Go ahead, Chris.
So the first thing I'm going to, as a player, you should be asking is, how was the read? And then the second thing was I distracted? And was there something competing for my attention? And address it right away. Because if you lost that moment, you've lost the ability to control the ball speed because something was distracting you. And as soon as you answer those, you can move on. Now, granted, you said 3 feet, so there's a difference in my perspective of should I make it, should I not make it. And again, we didn't talk about whether it was a 1% or a 4% or what it was or
it's
what the
a
moment was.
3-putter, Chris.
But let's just say that those would be my 2 questions, and you have legitimate answers, like the answer to them.
Worst case, it's a couple inches outside the hole. Come on, Chris.
You address it and move on, and you're done.
You're really coming this from a mastery side, I see.
No doubt.
If you haven't noticed off of all of Chris's answers, what ballpark he comes from.
Yeah, I love it. Good one to have as a coach.
That's right. Very much so.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, that's the neutral way of thinking. That's, but it's not going to happen for everybody. Not everybody's going to think like that, as you said. People will understand the world a bit differently, and they'll understand that putt a little differently. I won't right now go through this whole mindset because there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
But I'll label it first. There's a mindset called promotion versus prevention. And it's not the same as approach and avoidance, even though it sounds kind of like it.
Yeah.
Like you had mentioned, avoidance is very kind of fear-based, and certainly the approach is more excitement-based. And so we're really not dealing with that per se. We're dealing with a more cognitive way of framing their goals. Like what do they understand is success and what is failure?
Yeah.
And so that's what we're talking about now. So it's a little broader based. And so it doesn't have to be anxiety related here. So promotion, and just one major characteristic, a promotion based player or having this mindset is somebody who is going after a gain. So the status quo is where they're at right now, their current state. They want to advance it. That's what they're wanting to do. They're trying to advance where they're at from 0 to a +1, which is just better.
Yeah.
So they're trying to make their situation an improvement from where they're at currently. So that's a different mindset than the prevention oriented person who success to them is staying the same. See, for the promotion oriented person, failure is staying the same.
Yeah.
Prevention, success is staying the same. So if you have a 3-foot putt, and let's say it's a good player, so there's birdies that they get plenty of birdies over time, and so they miss this 3-foot putt. Well, it depends on if it's for a birdie or a par.
Yeah.
That might make a difference in how they react to it. So let's say the promotion oriented person has a 3-foot for birdie and they miss it. They're going to be upset at that, most likely, somehow, unless they train themselves otherwise, right? But that's going to be a kind of a natural way that they're going to respond to it, because missing a birdie, they lost the opportunity for a success, which is getting better, gaining a stroke.
Yeah.
Whereas the prevention oriented person, everything else being equal, obviously, everything else, because there's other factors involved. The prevention oriented person defines success as staying the same. So if they miss a 3-foot birdie putt, it, again, you would predict it wouldn't be quite as upsetting, because they still got a par, which if they are referencing their game as status quo par, not that big a deal. I still got a par. I can move on. But if it's for a par, then it can change. So
Then
it
it
depends
flips.
on what it's for, right?
Then it flips.
Yeah, it can flip. Absolutely. So this promotion prevention mindset, we can talk a little bit more as we go at times tonight. But that's an interesting one that we might look at to see where people's reactions might be in a situation like that.
I think that's brilliant, because when I was doing a lot of consulting for college teams, there were certain players. It's exactly what you said. So you would look at their make percentages for birdie at different feet, and there were definitely athletes that loved making birdie, and then you look at them from the same distances for par putts, not the same creature. Where the majority of college players are the exact opposite. I miss a 3-footer, but it's par. Par's good. I'm happy.
Right.
I leave.
Mm-hmm.
Coach won't know any different. It's a par. So, but there's disproportionately, that was the mindset, or definitely performance markers that you saw.
Yeah.
But there's like a 10% crowd out there that we would run across that you could tell they were birdie hunters. Like, they loved birdie. So I think I didn't even know that mindset really existed.
Yeah.
Now it makes perfect sense.
All right.
Where were you, Mike? I would have been so much smarter back then. All right. So, and then I would also say kind of, the avoidance player, because a lot of golfers, especially higher handicappers, kind of play the avoidance game. So you miss one 3-footer, what do you immediately start thinking? Uh-oh, I need to change this. I need to do this different. I'm over the next 3-footer. What do I remember? I just missed the other 3-footer. Well, I pulled it. So this time I'm going to make sure I don't pull it. Now they pushed it because they're reacting to something in the past. So, I think the avoidance person, that for those that are out there, that's a tough way to play this very frustrating game.
Big time.
Frustrating game. All right, scenario 2. You just hit an OB on a reachable par 5. How do you reset? Who wants to jump in on this one?
Let's go with mastery-oriented person, Chris.
Well, I'm going to ask, was it my tee shot or was it my second shot?
All right, Chris.
I think the important part of that is if you go into a round with a proper mindset and perspective of adversity is going to happen. There are times where I'm going to mishit a shot. And it's going to be one of those shots, and it's a very small percentage depending on your skill level, but you're going to have them. The ability to compartmentalize that and not identify it as anything more than it is, and you go back through and you hit your next shot and move on. Now, it takes a lot of time and training and focus to be able to manage those types of environments, because we don't know what the context or scenario was before on the hole. We could have had a scenario or situation. It could have been, a shot. It could have been more of, anything between players. There could have been a lot of things that influence behavior going into it. Could be stimulation from, past recall of a certain situation. But the better that you can step up and allow that to be an outcome and not identify it as more than it is, and not make wholesale changes to overcorrect or do something you have not trained yourself to do, is a big piece to success on the next one.
Yeah, that's great. Love that. I'm going to try using the promotion and prevention mindset again. So somebody hits it out of bounds and they're gain oriented, right? So
Yep.
there's a real possibility that, that's going to be disappointing right away. And, but that reset is, what can I do with this now? What can I do? Like, I'll say a player recently that I know hit it out of bounds on a really short par 5, first hole of a course, and came back, hit it in the fairway, and then dropped his second shot in for a birdie on the par 5. I mean, pretty amazing, huh? And so what's the mentality there? Well, the mentality is, I can still do something cool here.
Yeah.
And that's not everybody's going to have that mentality. It's tough for some people to have it, but a promotion oriented person could have that, because they're always looking, and they're very sensitive to reward. That's also a part of this promotion mindset. They're very sensitive to reward. So yes, they hit it out of bounds, but what can happen now is I can still be rewarded by my next shot.
Yeah.
It's a person who can reset pretty quickly while they still have a chance. Whereas the prevention-oriented person, they tend to be more sensitive to loss and punishment. So if they hit it out of bounds, they might actually think that they did something wrong, because they're usually very cautious. They want to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And they might second guess themselves, and then they think, gosh, this is terrible. And they tend to get really anxious when something like that happens. Whereas that promotion-oriented person may be really disappointed right away, but then they can reset with what they can do in the next shot. So I think the prevention-oriented person, I think, is probably going to be more vulnerable to the leading to avoidance and maybe a downslide in the way they handle that. Again, everything else being equal, that would probably be the prediction you would make.
Yeah, because I see the avoidance person, and I would see this in college, but I see this a lot with amateurs. To me, they get a shrinking strategy. So as soon as they hit one ball crooked, instead of saying that's one of 7 I'm going to hit today, all of a sudden that their game plan just starts to shrink. So they start to tighten up. They start to avoid. They start trying to control, avoid that from happening again. So I used to always tell my players, don't be small now. Like, you made a mistake happen. It's fine. You know, I always used to say, like, an OB ball, like, did you aim there on purpose and hit it there? And they'd be like, no. I go, well, okay. If you did, then we're going to have a real conversation. But if you didn't, that was an error. Whatever reason, who cares? Let's not shrink. Let's go play the game.
Right.
Because, again, I think that avoidance and that kind of that prevention person starts to allow that one shot to start to kind of filter into every other shot they're planning on hitting coming up. And then, again, the game gets really, really hard because it's a game of variance. And you start taking away all your variables, it gets real hard to play this beautiful game.
Well, the way you handle that, I thought was great. I thought that would be something that could be really helpful. I'm curious about you, what your experience is, because I think a lot of college coaches train the prevention mindset into their players.
Too much.
Okay, so you agree? I mean, that's kind of what I've seen.
Yeah, too much. I think a lot of college coaches that kind of go what we talked about earlier, that kind of what you're talking about, the promotion mindset versus kind of a prevention mindset. I think a lot of college coaches would rather see the par then I would rather see 6 birdies and 6 bogeys.
Okay.
Yeah, well, maybe tomorrow we make 6 birdies and we only make 3 bogeys. It's a great day. I think a lot of coaches, and for whatever reason, it's like short putts, right? When you miss a 3-footer, you miss a 3-footer, and you start missing a bunch of 3-footers, then all of a sudden you got the yips. Yeah. I think a lot of coaches have the coaching yips. They're scared to let their player go do. Yeah. And to me, again, you got to let the player. You recruited them, you train with them. Yeah. You got to let them go play.
Right. And really, there's nothing wrong with the prevention mindset. In fact, people can play great golf with the prevention as long as it doesn't move into avoidance, as you're saying. But I think, though, it doesn't match a lot of college players. They go into their...
Uh-oh. What happened to Mike?
You go.
Okay, we lost you there for a second.
Sure, had a notification up there. So a lot of high school players get into college. They're very promotion oriented. They love golf. They get into the college situation. It becomes a very prevention oriented mentality about not making the big number. Make sure you don't do this. Make sure you don't do this. And then the love of the game just is gone.
No. Well,
it doesn't fit their mentality.
I can tell you stories where I sat down with college coaches and the data says X, Y, Z. And they'd be like, no, we don't do it that way. We don't do that like that here. And I'm like, well, short par 5 or short par 4, like if you're not trying to hit it up on the green, assuming you got the capabilities that you can control variance and you're not, I'm like, you're giving away shots. Like you're making it harder on your athlete, and I would tell golfers this, all the time is like, you're playing against the best player in the country. Maybe inside of your training, you're not hitting putts past the hole. You're fine with leaving a couple putts short that shouldn't be short. I was like, so you're playing the best player in the country, and they're never going to leave these putts short. You're going to hit it exactly the same as they do, but you're still going to get your tail kicked because they're going to roll 4 more putts past the hole that have a chance to go in, and you don't. And you do that over 3 days. Again, so again, that mindset of, I think, again, it goes to you. Do you want your players to win, or do you want your team to be in the mix? We always wanted our players to win. Yeah. We made a rule, don't get out of the van until you think you can win. Like, if you don't think you can win this tournament, don't get out of the van. Like, now, the 5s, are they going to win? Probably not. But they need to think that they got a chance to win this tournament. Like, so, I think college, and I would even say anytime you get team-oriented, I think a lot of times prevention, it shows up way too much. And I would say college coaches, I think it's gotten better with data. I think a lot of coaches are having to, laying up to your favorite wedge doesn't really exist anymore. So I think a lot of that has changed, but there is a whole lot of still. And again, there's a lot of coaches and their job's right on them, playing decent, maybe not winning, but not losing. So there's some more external factors there.
Sure, absolutely.
And I'll share some stories later, Buds, that you just would shake your head. Like, you'd be like, oh my, what?
I've heard a lot through my clients, individuals that talk about the experiences they have. And I'm not there to witness it, but I've heard so many too. And
I don't know which coach it is, but I could probably tell you that your player is probably not lying.
Yeah.
Probably not lying. All right, I think this is probably one of my favorite ones. It's Friday afternoon, and you're right on the cut line, man. So I used to call it the cut line dance, right? So the projected cut is 1 under. Here you are, Friday, rolling in with 3 holes to go. Where are you standing? 1 under. So what should your mindset be? Mastery, Chris?
Keep doing what I'm doing. Don't change the game plan, baby.
Yeah, I mean,
I love it.
Yeah,
what you should do.
It's what gets you there, but it's so easy to get into that, prevention mode, that avoidance mode. They go, don't make a mistake, and now all of a sudden you totally disregard all the work you've put in for weeks and months and years, and now you self-destruct. We watch it all the time, but it takes serious, honest discipline to be able to learn how to do that. And
Yep.
you have to fail multiple times before you even grasp the concept, before you can execute it.
You got to have data points to prove that's an issue.
Yeah. Well, what you
All right,
said
Mike,
is so
what do you
great.
think
Just
about the
keep.
cut line dance?
I'm sorry. The cut line dance. So, and I know that you said this before, Brian, that a lot of people when they first start out, where they have cuts, they often miss it by one stroke. Right?
Always.
Yeah. Very common thing to have happen. But what you said, Chris, was to keep doing what you're doing. Okay, so I love that. Now, the prevention oriented person's game plan is going to take on a different feel and a different kind of a different strategy because they're going to be, if they're really prevention oriented, they're going to create a game plan with the idea of where are the mistakes that could happen. So I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to short myself over here. I'm going to make sure that I stay away from this trouble off the tee. I'm going to make sure that I'm giving myself conservative safe. That is really how they think, is security and safety. That's an important two words for the prevention oriented person. It's mentality and attitude. So they're going to create a game plan on the basis of those kinds of motives and those kind of strategies. So you get into a situation where to do the same thing would be maintain that prevention orientation without getting into an avoidance scenario. So avoidance is more the anxiety related stuff, where prevention is just a strategy based way of thinking.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. So they can still be prevention oriented and go out there and do great on that last day, as long as they don't fall into the avoidance stuff, and which has all these very detailed issues that come along with it that aren't helpful. The promotion oriented person, they're going to think about this course in relation to where are all my opportunities for birdies, as we talked about before. Where are my opportunities for making par on these difficult holes? That's how they're going to think. So going into that last day, they'd want to just stay with that same mentality and not get more. They don't want to switch. It shouldn't switch from promotion to prevention.
Yeah.
At that point. So whatever game plans they've had are going to already be affected by that mentality, that mindset. So why would you change it now? If they do, that's where that approach and avoidance stuff starts to come into play. If they start forcing things too much, they get impulsive. That's the downside of the promotion mindset. If they go too much into that, they get impulsive and they start taking chances that are just, ridiculous. And of course, no coach wants to see that kind of a thing, or parent for that matter, probably. But they take unreasonable chances. That's the downside if they're too promotion oriented without a little bit of a balance. The prevention oriented person, they might just get way too cautious.
Yeah.
And then if it turns into avoidance, then they're starting guiding their shots and those kinds of things as well. Of never going for it, having the putts come up short because they don't want a 3-putt and ruin their chances. So I do think that mindset really plays a role in terms of the whole game plan and their ability to maintain, hopefully, that game plan that they've created that fits. And the last thing I'll say about that is that if a promotion-minded person thinks in a promotion-minded way and has coaches around them and or caddies who talk in promotion-minded ways, that's going to be more satisfying. They're going to be more engaged, more interested, and more likely to be successful. So you want to match up thoughts, mentality, and what people are saying around you. If they're prevention oriented, it is actually helpful for them. They feel more satisfied. They're more into it. They tend to have more interest and engagement when there's a prevention language around them. So some of the players who go into college who have prevention minded coaches, that fits them really well.
Yeah.
Because it matches them and they like it. They enjoy that whole process and they really can get into it. So those are things that are really interesting about promotion and prevention mindsets that I don't think has found its way into the golf world too much at this point. And I think it fits really well with what Chris said. And how do you keep doing what you're doing without switching up your whole mindset because you're in a new situation?
Yeah, and I'll follow up on that promotional. How do you do that? I think it's your pre-work. It's your understanding that I'm in that moment. I have 3 holes left, but because you've done the research, you know that you don't need to do more in the last 3 holes. 1 under is fine because no, you're not going to gain strokes on these holes because nobody's going to be able to do that mathematically. And if you understand that going in, you reduce that desire or that feeling or that impulse to try and do more when you don't need to, so you can keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
capitalized on all your opportunities throughout the round because you knew where they were and you executed that. And then you don't feel that anxiety. You don't feel that buildup. When you get to those moments, you just know I'm good.
Yeah.
And I used to always call it the cut line dance. It was funny because especially mini tours, people fighting to get on tour. On tour, cut line's a little bit, it's not much, but it is different because if you are at the PGA level, LPGA level, it's a little bit different. But I would say a lot of players get more of an outcome based. My goal is to make the cut. So what do? They put themselves right about the cut line. But here's the beauty of the cut line. It doesn't stay flat. So if I project the number, I need to be 1 under and I'm outcome driven and I get to 1 under and I'm pumped up. And then some Yahoo makes 2 birdies coming down the stretch and that line moved and I just missed the cut. Yeah. And again, I think a lot of times also as an athlete, they get so focused on the outcome of this is the number. And maybe they started off poorly, like Mike said, and I hit one out of bounds. And on a par 5, I should have gotten birdie. Now I'm walking away with par bogey. No. I'm not going to be able to reach my outcome goal. And they start to shut it down early. And the fact that they're like, okay, I'm not going to reach my expected goal today. And they'll shut it down. So I think that outcome player, a lot of time when their goal is not to win the tournament, but their goal coming in is to make the cut, they're going to put themselves right on that cut line. And they're going to be the most frustrated son of a gun you ever work with because – man, if I just wouldn't have missed that putt on 17 or if I would have just hit a little bit closer on 6, that would have been so much different. And you're just sitting there going, maybe you just keep playing and don't worry about that. And I'll give you a great story. Lauren Coughlin, she was on that cut line dance for a long time on mini tours and then even on the LPGA tour. And then her big awakening at one point, she goes, all I can control is what I'm doing right this second. And the rest of it, I don't. And then the day she kind of had that epiphany of like, all I can do is play as well as I can play right here, right now, kind of going into that more of that mastery. Let me control this shot. Let me do what I can do today. It got her out of that outcome of, and it's hard. Don't get me wrong. When you're on mini tours, you're not making a lot of money. And if you don't make the cut, airfare or, driving, hotel, expense to like all of a sudden you're like, I just lost a couple grand. Like, now granted, if you don't make if you make the cut, you're probably not making your expenses back, but at least you feel good. But I think that I think a lot of players, I think you'll see this a lot, member, or club championship. Their goal is, a lot of times is to beat so and so. Well, what if you do beat so and so, or you're beating them so bad? Why isn't your goal to win the tournament? Who cares? Kind of that ego side of it. Yeah. Who cares if you beat Fred today? Fred's out of it. You should be trying to beat these other guys, but now you're just coasting it because my goal was to beat Fred. It's like, oh, okay. You won. You got 18 more holes. You won.
Beat Fred.
You beat Fred. So I would say I've worked, as a coach, you get a lot of journey people trying to make it on tour. And I've seen more cut line fiascos than I can. Yeah, too many, and you kind of know what's going to happen. But don't let the cut line be your goal. Like I said, let's win this thing. All right, scenario 4: you have a 12-foot putt to win outright. How do you handle it? 12-footer, Chris. It's makeable. It's makeable.
You make it. You do everything you can to make it without doing anything more. Like as soon as you start making it bigger, or you try and,
You must be
do
just
something.
so boring to play golf with.
It's pretty straight and boring. There's not a lot of excitement, but I do the same thing, and that's what you do.
That's fair.
It's that 12-foot putt to win. Um, when you can simmer it down to it's a 12-foot putt, and that putt doesn't know any identity. That ball doesn't know who's rolling it. You do. Your emotion does. Your mindset does. Um, but your ability as a player to be able to go into that process and execute it just as you would with read, speed, and strike of the putt, and if it goes in, great. And I think training certainly plays a big role in this, right? That you're only as good as your measure of training. So the hole's 4.25 inches wide, and from 12 feet, let's just say we put a tee 4 inches left and 4 inches right of the hole. So you create an environment for that ball to go in 33% of the time if you roll it between those two tees, okay, from 12 feet. So you think, well, making 33% of 12 footers is pretty decent, especially when the tour's only making 50%. If you're a club golfer, that's a really good average. But I guarantee you, if I just put two tees on the putting green and had a random assortment of club members come up from 12 feet and said, can you roll this ball between that foot zone and not roll it more than 2 feet past, they go, absolutely. And most of them could probably do it unless we had some odd and very strange things going on. But then they do that, and you bring the group back together and you say, well, what you just did was you created an environment for you to make 33% of your 12-foot putts. Now, wouldn't that be amazing? But see, the kicker is they have to understand and digest that to do that, it's okay to miss 66%, as long as the putt qualifies where it goes between the tees and no more than 2 feet by.
Yeah.
So then they start changing their perspective.
Understanding's huge.
Yeah, that concept is is helpful to some players for sure, because for one thing, it takes away from the all the things that people can do to try to force their way into the hole, force that ball into the hole, which changes their stroke and all that other thing. Boy, wouldn't it be nice if people could just see the hole and want to make it and go for it and have their same stroke, and not have to feel like they've got to do something like that. But for a lot of players, I would think that would be very helpful, what you just described, because it is an issue for them. And they do have they do get into a different stroke with a different mentality in that situation. Okay, so I would just add go back to the promotion and prevention. I would add that it depends on what's going to happen if they miss it. So if it's to win it outright with the 12-foot putt, that must mean if they two putt, it's a tie. It stays a tie. I'm kind of looking at that.
Yeah,
way.
well, yeah, we can assume that.
So that would be a tie. So they're already tied now in the moment. And so a prevention-oriented player might
be okay
look
with
at that in the way that, hey, I just need to be sure that I'm tied. Stay the same. That's success. So then I still have a chance.
Yep.
Whereas the promotion-oriented person is going to go, it's time to win. I can make it and do it now. I can gain this right this moment. And so you're going to see probably some differences there. It doesn't mean the prevention-minded person is going to get all avoidant. It just means that they're going to have a different mentality over that putt. That's all. And they could still make it. But I would think, given if you could do research on this, which you could, I would guess you would see a promotion-oriented, those balls would probably be past the cup more often than the prevention-oriented putters, and probably the proximity would be further away from the hole for the promotion-oriented than the prevention-oriented. I would guess that, but I would also guess that there would be more makes in the promotion-oriented Maybe that's a little bit because I'm that way when I play golf. I'm very promotional. I'm a little biased towards promotion orientation.
I'm starting to figure stuff out, Mike. I've had an epiphany. I'm totally a promotion-oriented player. Like, because I've never really been outcome driven. Like, I want to win. I want to beat you. Yeah.
Right.
But golfers do. But I'm totally about, man, this is going to be good. Like,
Yeah.
I can't wait. This is going to be good. Like, you give me a 12-footer, I'll be like, I'm salivating. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm going to put a dagger in it. This is going to be so good. Watch this.
Chris, you know Brian longer than I have. He seems like he's that way in his personality.
Oh yeah, you ought to see him cook or grill. It's amazing.
Yeah,
because I'm not ego driven. That's not me.
Right.
I'm not outcome driven. Like, I don't care.
Right.
I'm not avoidance driven. That is not me. Mastery. I want to know why I missed a lot of times. Like, if I hit a bad shot, I'm like, well, was it path? Was it face? I can fix that. But yeah, no, I like, you kept saying promotion today, and I'm listening to I'm like, God, that was the last time I played. I literally had that thought.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it. No, I think, to me, the math says 12-footer, you got to be getting it, 9 out of 10 times past the hole. That's kind of like Chris talks about training what's good. And I can't leave mini putts short, where a lot of avoidance, and probably even, like kind of you said, the prevention player might be okay with it being just a quick little 4-inch tap in. But I think again I think again, like the mastery players or whatever, they're calm, cool. Think of a Scotty Scheffler, just doesn't. But then part of me thinks of Tiger. Like, Tiger was excited. Like, you could tell, like, he just wanted that 12-footer. Like Scotty knocks it in and it's awesome, but you watch Tiger back then, and you just could tell everything about him was about that 12-footer. Like, I don't know. I think it's fun. One, it's fun to be in the mix. Right? You got a chance to win 12-footer. Like, that's not going to happen very often. But yeah, I think the mastery people, I could see where y'all would be pretty chill.
Yeah.
Pretty chill out there.
Another opportunity to learn something, right?
That's right. They're like assassins. They're like, I hit the headshot, but I meant to put it right in his orbital bone, and instead I missed it by a quarter. I'm going to learn from that. I'm like, the promotion guy's like, man, I got him and the guy behind him. Yes. No. All right, let's go. Scenario number 5 here. You're 2 shots back on Sunday, going into the back 9. Chris, as a master, how are you going to play it?
I'm going to play the golf course. I'm going to hit the shots, and I'm going to stick to my targets. Obviously I'm going to change for some environmental conditions if there are any changes or anything like that. But I'm going to work on picking targets, and then when I have the opportunity and it's been created. So let's say I hit an approach shot. I'm still going to aim my dispersion, and, I'm going to hit the ball on the green because that is the opportunity. And if I'm executing my game plan, then, the last thing you want to do in a situation like that is try and do more, aim at a tighter pin, because you're still aiming the same dispersion. Like, it's not going to change. But we get greedy, and we think we're going to hit the one shot we want to hit instead of the one, let's say at a tour level, instead of the one of maybe, 10 to 15 shots we might hit depending on their skill level. There's a big difference in that. And so it's getting that ball on the green so you have the opportunity. Now, if you do that on each of the 3 last holes, you're going to be fine, because that's what you have to do to be able to have a putt to do it. Whereas as soon as you start changing that system, you're going to not have a birdie putt on the last 3 holes, and your chances go diminishing quickly.
All right, I'm going to read a few of these characteristics and see if we can see Chris as a prevention-minded person as well as mastery, because you can have them both. All right, so here we go.
Let's hear it.
All right. Let's see. Preferences for protection-oriented game planning. Goals are based on obligation or doing it the right way. they prefer serious pursuits. They're less likely to take those risks. They value logic, calculation, and analytical thinking in decision making. They value established rules and algorithms and problem solving. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, a little bit of that, right?
I think he's Max Headroom. I think he's the bot.
Hey, I'm doing the math, man. I know it's going to work out in the end. It's going to work out.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So you're mastery and prevention oriented in your golf and your coaching, and that's not a bad thing, because obviously we know that data can be very helpful. But it is interesting because you compare that to the promotion-minded person who prefers fun pursuits. It was really fun, but serious can be enjoyable to the prevention-oriented person, but it's more that kind of fun type of atmosphere. They're more likely to take risks. They value more intuition in decision making, that gut feeling. They value creativity in their problem solving, and they feel, and they don't mind having emotion. They don't think that's at odds with good decision making. That's the promotion minded person. So there's a difference between the two.
While we're on that, let's think about the event here the past week where Keegan was walking up the fairway and goes over with his putter to his kids, gives them a hit, that in moment, that intuition, that instinct, that feeling. That's interesting you say that, because you see that in his personality come out too. So I'd be curious to see the in-depth side of that. But
exactly, wouldn't that be interesting? And you wonder how his mindset related to promotion, possibly very more promotion oriented, would have been a part of this decision of whether he's going to be a player.
Yeah.
Because if he probably wanted to be a player. That's,
no doubt.
That's the guess, right? He wanted to do, because that you'd be looking at the rewards in that. That's how a promotion-oriented person would be thinking. They'd be more sensitive to, this would be amazing to be a player captain. But yeah, that's what makes me think other people came in and may have talked to him. Maybe there's some other reasons not to do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's interesting to me, what you just said about him. I didn't see him play either, hardly. So I didn't see that.
Yeah,
And,
Keegan was right there. Like, he was like, that's the hard part. He is like, he literally got kind of screwed last Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
And then this, for him to be in the position to have earned the points to be able to play, and then not. I mean, that's.
Yeah. You wouldn't think he decided not to be a player because it'd be too much pressure.
No, I don't think
that would be it at all with him.
I think
I don't even think
he
so.
certainly has the team's best interest, and he wants the best players on the team. Not that he wasn't going to be one of those, because he's been playing amazing, but but he felt like for the holistic value of the team to be successful, that was the best decision.
Yeah. Got to give him respect for that. But,
yeah.
I think it's very interesting, because I'm thinking it back to kind of what we just talked about, like, again, with a lot of college coaches is they take, that prevention mindset. I know there's been some coaches in the past where I've heard stories where they wouldn't play a certain player because they didn't kind of believe what the coach believed. And part of me is like, well, nobody really believes what anybody believes other than. So I think, again, that understanding that everyone perceives the world different and is motivated different and is going to interpret what's happening differently on the golf course. Where, again, think of Sergio back in the day cutting a 5-iron out under the trees and then running up the fairway and jumping. Like, that is totally a promotional, like, this is going to be, where the other guy might be like, I'm just going to move it back out here in the fairway and hit a great 5-iron and worst case, I walk away with my par or whatever. But, again, to me, it's, as a coach, you got to understand what players need to fuel and how are they going to play their best. Because kind of like you said earlier, Mike, there's a lot of college coaches and a lot of, I would say, PGA coaches that mean well, but they force players to do things that, aren't what fuels them. And there's that conflict and, makes golf less enjoyable. for
sure.
everybody. Coach isn't happy, the players not happy, parents aren't happy, scores not happy, teams not happy, and I think it's kind of cool. But no, I think it was kind of funny. You nailed Chris, nailed him.
Of course. He's known me well for a while now. We have
It's been a few years now.
Yeah.
I think I've never really seen anything on a podcast kind of like this where they're like looking at it from different players' perspectives. Typically, you tend to get the coach that says this is the way to do it, and this is the only way to do it. And again, the one thing I learned more than anything working with, 20 years in college coaching, so you get it. The beauty of a tour coach, or you get to see them play a lot. Like, it's not they show up for a session every 3 months. Like, you get to see them play. You get to see how they react under certain circumstances. You see how they train, how they interact. And then when those things change, as a good coach, you're going, ooh, what just happened? Like, that's not normal. So I think having that perspective is kind of fun. And the one thing I learned more than anything is, like, when I first started coaching, coaches would pass out, here's our training session for the week. And everybody did the same thing. And I came into golf. I was quirky. I didn't play college golf. I didn't really play golf until I went to college. Fell in love with the game, and like anything I do, I fall in love with it. I go 180 straight in, forget the world. But I came from team sports, football, baseball. So I came in from that perspective. So I'm just like, well, everyone kind of does it a little different. Like, quarterbacks are different. They all do. They're great. Like, Tom Brady is not Lamar Jackson. I don't think Lamar would be real happy being that grumpy and angry as Brady is. Like, that's not who he is. And he wouldn't succeed under that mindset. So, but I definitely would say, as a player, kind of like Mike said, make sure you find what supports what you need to do. And I think caddy-wise, too, that's massive. Like, that's having the right caddy on the bag for a tour player. That could be a whole podcast in itself, because I got some horror stories on that one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I thought today's show was really good. Let's close this up, Chris. Where can they find you? Anything you want to close out the show with?
You can find me at chrisgeorgegolf.com. Drop me an email, a note. Would love to get some feedback on this and other podcasts we've done. And any questions that you may have regarding being able to have better performance on the golf course, I'm happy to answer.
Awesome. Mike?
All right. Well, I mean, it's easy place to find me is the motivationgame.com. There's a contact place. Rather than giving my email address, they can just contact me through there. Very simple.
Perfect. And then, you guys know how to find me. September 1. A couple days from now, the new Golf Cask Life is coming out. Mike has an article which is, I think, a little different than the Mike perspective, but it really hits home for coaches. I think it's brilliant. And then Chris, in the Chris Mastery methodology, nailed his article on mastering complexity. I mean, spot on. So make sure you jump on and follow that. And like I said, September 1, that'll be coming out. If you're not a Golf Cask member, sign up. It's free. Ship it right to your inbox. So make sure you do that. So thank you, everybody. And we'll see you all again next month. Cheers.
Sounds good. See ya.